what do a planet, an attractive face, and a snowflake have in common? Symmetry. Symmetry is prevalent throughout life. You can fold a sunflower in half, stories have an arc, and the human body can bend and create mesmerizing shapes. There are also irregularities that enhance life. It adds beauty and complexity. If there's symmetry in nature, then there must be a kind of symmetry in the way we lead our lives. Symmetry cannot be possible without asymmetry, the same way sadness magnifies joy. Alan Lightman wrote in The Accidental Universe, "I would claim that symmetry represents order, and we crave order in the strange universe we find ourselves in. But chaos will happen whether we like it or not. It's how we respond to it that either creates order or more chaos. So when in chaos, create your symmetry." Our St. Petersburg chapter chose this month's exploration of the theme in Anna Fadeva Illustrated. And MailChimp is our presenting partner. Okay, it's time. Where is she? Oh, there she is. Okay, sorry. You're good. Sorry, Corey. You usually know where the speaker is. Corri Chadwick is a social justice advocate. Woo! Committed to raising consciousness around ways that one's own power and privilege can be used for good. She works as a mental health therapist in the education system and is dedicated to empowering youth through self-awareness. Corri has been teaching Vinyasa Yoga within the Sacramento community for over a decade, and she believes in the power of recognizing and healing our own trauma so that we may be of maximum service to others. I've been following Corri at Little Nectar on Instagram for years, and I admire her bravery to talk about the uncomfortable. She is also a beautiful writer, and she talks about the topics that are the most painful, confusing, and contentious, but she does it with compassion and heart. Please join me in welcoming Corri Chadwick.
That was me with the hacking cough and the mic, so just get that out of the way. I just want to start by saying thank you so much to Rebecca for these uncomfortable conversations to happen. They are uncomfortable but necessary, so I'm just so grateful to you, Rebecca. Is Alan in the room? Alan Ramirez? Where are you, Alan? Alan, so I have zero PowerPoint keynote skills, and so he made it look like I know something today, and I just want to say thank you so much, Alan, for that. So what I want to start by saying is that I am in no way, shape, or form an expert in what I'm about to share with you, but I'm making it my job to be, because what I want to be very clear about is that racism and oppression are a white people problem. I'm going to say that again. Racism and oppression are a white people problem, and it's a problem that needs to be solved by white people, not people of color. And so it's really important that we have these conversations that are really difficult and uncomfortable to have. So, like I said, not an expert, but I'm making it my job to be, and my hope is that this is an invitation for all of you to start seeing it in that way. So today's theme of symmetry, you know, for me, when I think of symmetry, I think of balance, I think of equity, and I know that when I am in balance and in equity, my life feels at peace. What I know is that in our culture and in our society, as it relates to racial symmetry, there is not a lot of it. It's actually quite inequitable. And so today we're going to talk about ways that we can create more symmetry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a quote, and I'm going to invite you to really embody this quote. You're welcome to sit up nice and tall. You can keep your eyes open, or if it feels okay for you, close them down. This is a quote by a man named Scott Woods. And so again, I just invite you to really allow this to land in your nervous systems. So why don't we just collectively go ahead and take, I'm also a yoga teacher, so let's go ahead and take a big breath in, and exhale, just go. Okay, good. So here's the quote. He says the problem is that white people see racism as conscious hate, when racism is bigger than that. Racism is a complex system of social and political levers and pulleys set up generations ago to continue working on behalf of whites at other people's expense, whether white people know it or like it or not. Racism is an insidious cultural disease. It is so insidious that it doesn't care if you're a white person who likes black people. It's still going to find a way to infect how you deal with people who don't look like you. Yes, racism looks like hate, but hate is just one manifestation. Privilege is another, access is another, ignorance is another, apathy is another, and so on. And so while I agree with people who say that no one is born racist, it remains a powerful system that we are immediately born into. It's like being born into air. You take it in as soon as you breathe. It's not a cold that you can get over. There's no anti-racist certification class. It's a set of socioeconomic traps and cultural values that are fired up every time we interact with the world. It is a thing that you have to keep scooping out of the boat of your life to keep from drowning in it. I know it's hard work, but it's the price you pay for owning everything. So today I'm going to review 4 simple steps to creating more what I would say is racial symmetry or equity in our lives. They are awareness, listening, truth, and action. So just looking at the definition, there are many definitions of symmetry. The one that resonated the most for me is similarity or exact correspondence between different things. And as I mentioned before, I think, I hope we can all agree that there is not a lot of racial symmetry happening within our country, within our own cities, within our own neighborhoods, within our own friend groups. So we're going to start by taking a look around your world. I think we can start in this space right here. This is a very white space. Can we agree on that? Yeah. And if you're feeling uncomfortable about acknowledging that, then that's awesome. Because it's important that we feel uncomfortable. We have to brave these conversations by first acknowledging the discomfort that we feel. If we can't recognize our whiteness, we can't even start this work. So it's important for us to take a look around and see just how white the spaces we operate in are. Think about your Instagram feeds. What do you see? When was the last time you read a book by a person of color? What about the movies that you watch? What about the friendship circles that you hang out in? What's important for us to recognize as white people is that it is very easy to move about our lives in a very homogeneous way. So being aware of it, looking at where we're starting is a really important part of the process. And understanding how, as white people, we really create a system where we are at the center of all of it. And so what this work invites us to do is to step back out to the periphery of the circle, to create space and awareness so that we can start to center people of color who have really powerful, important things to share, but don't have the access because we're hogging up the space. So, awareness is the key agent for change. We have to be aware in order to know how to move forward. And there's this really important distinction that I want to make between guilt and regret. So when we step into this work, it's very easy to fall into the trap of feeling very guilty, okay? There's actually even a term for it, white guilt, right? White tears. So it's important to understand that guilt is a very self-serving emotion. When we're in guilt, we get very trapped, and it's like this woe is me, and it turns the centering back onto ourselves, which we are conditioned to do. As white people, this is not judgment. We're just very trained and conditioned for things to continue to turn back on us. So guilt will allow for more of that centering, and what we're looking to do is set guilt aside, to be regretful for the actions that we may have taken that have been harmful or the inactions, and to use that regret to inform us about how we're going to step forward into action. Listening. So I want to go back to the 1960s, specifically between 1960 and 1968, the height of the civil rights movement. Gallup was really interested in looking at white people's responses to Martin Luther King Jr. So they polled a bunch of different things, but specifically what I'm going to talk about, first they were interested in looking at how white people felt about Martin Luther King Jr. himself and his cause. And so overwhelmingly throughout that time frame, white people said, like in the 80% range, that they agreed with his message, that they were totally on board. They felt that, segregation was wrong, and they believed in his message. And at the same time, overwhelmingly, those same white people said that they felt that they didn't agree with the way that he was going about doing it. So I want to hit pause for a minute and I want to reflect and think about how we think about Martin Luther King Jr. today, 50-some years later, right? We have given a federal holiday named after him. We hold him in a very high regard. Many of us really see him as the voice of reason in the Black community. We reference him a lot, but that's in hindsight. And it's really easy, hindsight is always 20/20, to look back and go, well, that was a really great way of going about doing it. But what I want to say is that white people during that time, the ones who felt they were liberal, they were all for the cause, didn't even agree with Martin Luther King Jr. back then. So that begs the question, how are we doing that today? How are we tone policing today? Where in our lives do we see people of color sharing their voice and have all sorts of opinions about how they ought to do it? Black Lives Matter, right? So we see people expressing themselves, people of color expressing themselves, and as white people, we make it our job to decide how they should or shouldn't do it. Well, if they would just this, or if they would just that, then we might be able to hear them or listen to them. What I'm going to say is this. For all the white people in the room, myself included, we have never lived in black or brown skin, ever. I don't know what it would be like. People of color and their expression of anger, rage, sadness, oppression, whatever it is not our jobs to decide how they do it. Period. Our job is to listen, is to create a space to hear what they have to say and understand that that anger is righteous anger. So, truth. White liberal folks. Okay? We are some of the most serious offenders of this problem. And I'll tell you why. It's really easy to look at our president. It's easy to look at the alt-right and to say, well, those are racist people. But I want to circle back to the quote that I started with to really drill in and hit home the point that racism is not a single person. Racism is a system. And so we as white people, I will speak for myself and invite you to see yourself in this. We have this tendency to think that we've arrived. We're not the bad ones. We like black people. We're nice. We're helpful. And we still have work to do. So we get in this pitfall, this trap of thinking because we've done X, Y, and Z, or because we help in this way, or we do this or that we have received our anti-racist certification and we're done. We're not. And it is very dangerous for us to fall into that because we get stuck and we think that there's no more work to be done. The great lie. You want to know what the great lie is? It's not great. We have to stop saying and believing that talking about race divides us. Yeah. You know who says that? White people. And you know why? Because it allows us to maintain white supremacy and white privilege. Now, when I say, I want to take a minute to pause and also say that when I say white supremacy, I'm not talking about the man with the KKK hood in Idaho. I'm talking about racism that exists today, that system of socioeconomic traps, right? The system of oppression. That is white supremacy culture. Now, the interesting thing about it is that white supremacy culture does not want to be caught. So it does all sorts of things, like have white people say things like, talking about race divides us. That is not true. It's a way for that system to stay alive. In order to heal this, we have to talk about it. We have to acknowledge it. The other lie, if you leave here today with something, I hope it's that you get this out of your vocabulary. Colorblindedness is false, patently false, okay? Colorblindedness is actually a form of violence. So I grew up in California. I'm a child of the 80s, and in California, that's what we said. It was like, we are the world. We are all one. I'm colorblind. I don't see color. That is a white narrative that keeps racism alive. And what it is actually saying to folks of color is, I don't see you, right? Because we see color. That is just false. Okay. This is my favorite slide. Where's Alan? We agree. This is the best slide. Who wants to do the claps as I say this? Actually, I think more important than the colorblindedness piece, what I hope you take with you today is to stop the spiritual bypass. We are so good at this, especially as white liberal people. And what the spiritual bypass is this phrase. We are all one. We are all one race, the human race. Yeah, it's funny, right? Here's the thing. That is true. We are all one race. But the problem is that we cannot all be one race until we first recognize that we are not all one. So, the way I see it, when people say this, and I'm a yoga teacher, I am the worst of the, I'm namaste, and we are all one, and yes. The problem is that when people are saying this sort of thing, the way I envision it is like, this is someone with their head in the clouds, okay? And they're looking at all sorts of privilege. So they're here. See, white supremacy doesn't want to be caught. So their heads in the clouds, and they're looking around, and they're like, we are all one. And what they're seeing is really pretty and very privileged and very comfortable. But their feet are not on the ground. And they have no sense of the fact that there are so many people, if they were to pop their head in the clouds, root their feet on the ground, and look around, there are so many people that are not feeling like they are all one. What a privileged statement to make, right? It's not bad. You're not being slammed, but we have to check ourselves and see how this is harmful. So the work begins. It's not to say we will never all be one. It's to pop out of the place of privilege, to get our feet on the ground and to start to reach up and pick people up so that the oneness that we all are is not out there. It's right here, right now. Feet on the ground. So can we agree to stop this? Okay. So, stepping into action, we have got to be willing to start. There is no arriving in this work, okay? We have to let go of thinking that we're going to be awarded. There are no ally cookies that we're going to get for doing this. The confetti doesn't drop out of the ceiling when we do a good thing, and we have to stop doing it. We have to allow for our commitment to this work to be greater than our ego, and understand that we are not doing this for acknowledgement. We're doing this because this is the right thing to do. We're doing this to clean up what our ancestors have left us so that we can move forward to be better ancestors in the future. But it starts with all of us. or stops, depending on how you look at it. So Dalai Lama, white people love quotes by the Dalai Lama, myself included. So the Dalai Lama says, compassion is not enough. We must act. And this is really what propelled me into this work, was that I got so tired of hearing that voice in my head that said, you have to be doing something about this, you have to be doing something about this, and then going back to sleep. Because I can, because my privilege allows me to. What I will say is that living in a black or brown body does not give you the privilege of going back to sleep ever.
Say that.
Yeah, I will. Living in a black or brown body does not afford you the privilege of going back to sleep ever. And we do it all the time. I am so guilty. I'm outraged when a young black boy is killed by police brutality. I'm on fire, and then 2 months pass and I'm back to sleep. And then, because this is our system, it happens again. And I get my second chance to jump up. And I get all fired up, and then what do? I go back to bed. Go back to sleep. This is intended, this conversation is intended to encourage you to stay awake. White silence costs lives. So here's the hard part. Another aspect of white supremacy culture is the notion of perfectionism. It's wired into our systems to be good and to be right and to get it right and to not mess it up and to not hurt people. And the thing is, I don't know about you, but I've never done this work before. So there's no way for me to get it right. The other piece of it is that people of color are not monoliths. So if I do something that one person of color may be okay with, doesn't mean that it's not going to have an impact over here on someone else. I want to draw the distinction between intent and impact. We may be very well intended in our actions in what we do. That doesn't mean that the impact is not going to hurt someone. So it's really important. What white people have a tendency to do is mess something up. A person of color says, ouch, that hurt me. And then we double down, right? We dig our heels in. Well, I didn't mean to. And then the tears come out. And then who is at the center of that? Us. So this is about acknowledgement. It's about seeing where we've caused harm and having the courage to say, I'm sorry, and then to move forward with an intent to do better next time and a hope that it may not have impact, but to brace ourselves that it most likely will. The more we fall down and we stand back up and we do our best to make it right, the better we get at handling what's going to come at us by stepping into this type of work. So we're going to do a quick activity, and this activity, when I've done it before, is intended to like walk around a room and move, and I realize that's not going to happen. So, you know, just within your space, you're going to go ahead and stand up. So the idea of this activity is to see how we are hardwired in our patterns. Okay, and how unlearning these patterns can be difficult, but how necessary it is to create more symmetry, okay, more balance. So, and what we know too about the brain is super plastic, and with that neuroplasticity, we can change our brains. For a long time, we thought, okay, this is what we've got, but now we realize that the brain is so forgiving, and it's seeking change. We just have to create the pattern and the new habit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say these two phrases, and you're going to respond to them. I'm going to say walk, and when I say walk, you're just in place. You're just going to walk, okay? Can we go ahead? Yeah, try it. Okay. And then when I say stop, you're going to stop. Okay? So let's go ahead and try it. Walk. Stop. Stop. You're good. Walk. Okay. Good. All right. Stop. So now we're going to reverse it. So when I say stop, you're going to walk. And when I say walk, you're going to stop. Okay. Stop. Walk. Stop. Walk. Good. Quick learners. All right. Okay, so now we're going to add on. So we're still on the reverse. Walk is stop, stop is walk. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add on to that. So when I say name, you're going to yell out your name. Yeah. And when I say clap, you're going to clap. Okay? So we're going to put it all together. Here we go. Stop. Name. You're ahead of the game. Clap. Name. Walk. Clap. Good. All right. I'm impressed. All right. So now you know where we're headed, right? Yeah, I know. We're going to reverse that. So what we're going to do is when I say name, you're going to clap. And when I say clap, you're going to say your name. When I say stop, you're going to walk. When I say walk, you're going to stop. Stop. Clap. Name. Walk. Clap. Name. Awesome. Okay. All right. This is where we see who can stand that real test. Okay. So when I say jump, you're going to do just a light jump. Okay. When I say dance, you don't have to get crazy, but just like a little something. Okay. When I say name, you're going to clap. When I say clap, you're going to say your name. When I say walk, you're going to stop. When I say stop, you're going to walk. Stop. Clap. Dance. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Name. Walk. Good. Okay, last one. Here we go. We're going to switch them all up. When I say jump, you're going to dance. When I say dance, you're going to jump. When I say clap, you're going to say your name. When I say your name, you're going to clap. When I say stop, you're going to walk. When I say walk, you're going to stop. Jump. Clap. Stop. Name. Dance. Good. All right, have a seat, have a seat. So, yes, very good, very good. I'm going to wrap up, but the point of that is to really encourage you to see how deeply challenging this task at hand can be. We are wired to fall back into our habits, into what's easy, into what we know. And so it really is going to be like learning how to write with our opposite hand. So I'm so grateful for all of you being here. Thank you so much for giving me the space to speak this truth. And that's it. Yeah.